Hello fire signs Aries, Leo and Sagittarius. Welcome to the blue super full moon in Pisces. You'll find the timestamps for your rising sign listed below. Hello Aries rising, welcome to your horoscope for the super blue full moon in Pisces happening on the 31st of August at 11:37 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So we've got a list of things for me to explain as to why this one is pretty huge and might be a little bit intense, but also some like a little care package of suggestions for you as to how best to protect yourself through all of this. So the reason that it's called a blue moon, first of all, is because there's two full moons this month. So if you remember back on the 2nd of August, we had the full moon in Aquarius. Well, now on the 31st of August, we had the full moon in Pisces. So two lunations in the one season. It's pretty, like, you know, that's the simple way to describe it. So you know that phrase like once in a blue moon, that's kind of where it comes from. So it's not usual. It's kind of, you know, it's something to remark upon. The other thing, the reason that it's called a super moon is because there's 2 points in the moon's orbit around the Earth, and one's called the lunar apogee, which is the point where it's furthest away from the Earth. The other one's called the lunar perigee, which means it's closest to. And so this full moon is closest to the Earth. So as far as like the physicality, it's going to look bigger than usual, which means probably more emotions, probably more things will come from the unconscious to the conscious, maybe. And there's going to be a lot, you'll be feeling a lot. You'll be feeling pretty head up. I'll say that, Aries rising. So how are we going to work with this? One, we're going to be really clear with our intention. If we decide to take a bunch of drugs or go to the pub or anything like that, if we're going to be, you know, journeying and expanding our mind, then we need to be really mindful or have an intention for that trip. If we're looking for some sense of relief, then it's not going to work out, and it's probably going to, be pretty awful. Do you know that feeling sometimes where you've got that like warmth at the base of your spine, and you're sort of like, oh, I just need some relief, and I don't know how I'm going to find that relief. And then the further you think about it, then you're like, well, what would make me happy? I don't even know. Like, should I have another drink, or should I have, you know, another joint, or there's something in me that I'm trying to mask or trying to work through, but it's not working. This feeling can maybe be further explained by the mythology of Priapus. So in astrology, the lunar apogee is called Lilith, and the lunar perigee is called Priapus. And so Priapus was a child of Dionysus, I think, / Bacchus, the god of wine and pleasure. And Priapus was gifted, you might say, endowed quite handsomely. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but look up pictures of Priapus after this and you'll have a laugh. The Greeks used to, you know, worship and honor Priapus and thank them for things like fertility and things like the harvest, and you know, praying for abundance and things like that, as they often did. You know, that was sort of one of the major interests of ancient Greek folks was, you know, planting and growing and rejoicing, you know, when things worked out. In some of the mythology, Priapus had this sort of burning desire, but it was sort of like a numbness. Like it was like there's this incredible endowment, but no satisfaction. A lot of the stories had Priapus chasing this person or that person or the other person and never finding relief. So this is why I bring up all of that stuff about sort of, you know, am I going to, you know, work with this full moon. It's tempting too, because Pisces rules your 12th house, Aries rising, which is our sort of hidden work, our unconscious realms. And so there would be maybe a temptation to take a journey. If you're going to, I support that. But if you're going to, then make sure that it's with intent and make sure that your set and your setting is taken care of. Because if it's relief that you're after and relief only, you won't find it. That's my advice. The other thing that's happening is that Mercury has stationed retrograde. It's been that way since the beginning of Virgo season. So the sun entered Virgo, we started Virgo season pretty much straight away. Mercury was retrograde. So the good news is Mercury rules Virgo. So as far as like being helpful and beneficial in Virgo, that's one of Mercury's home bases. When things go retrograde, it's a time for revision, isn't it? It's a time to review. So when we think of Mercury, we think of communication. So this is what is sort of another maybe example of why we need to be intentional with what we're doing around this full moon. I don't want to be a wowser, like do what you want, but also don't do it because you're looking for something that you don't know what it is. You're looking for some sense of relief. There's an urgency about that because life at the moment is becoming a bit unbearable. If you're going to get effed up, you won't feel good the next day. That's it. So Mercury retrograde is a great time to review and to sort of like revise how we're communicating, what we're sort of trying to get across. The Virgo rules your 6th house, which is your sort of repetitious daily grind. So there might be some like snafus, there might be some frustrations, things might blow up. I know I had a bit of a sticky situation with my microphone and that threw me into a tailspin because I was like, oh, I can't afford to buy a new one. My whole thing's done. But all I needed to do was update the software and it worked because it's a USB microphone, la la la. So stuff like that is going to sort of maybe show up for us, and it's sort of like, it's not a fork in the road or like a stop sign, but it's like a go back, like, go back and revise what happened there. Maybe investigate here. I'm learning about myself that sometimes when things go wrong, I forget that I'm actually a pretty good problem solver. Like if I apply myself, I can probably figure out how this works or that works or what needs to happen. Eventually, I do take a long time to do kind of everything in my life. I'm a bit slow moving, but in the inception or the beginning of something going wrong, I'm like, oh, that's it. It's fucked. I can't do it. Oh, God. And so I think when Mercury is retrograde, this is how we can kind of learn from it. And if we kind of look and take note of when that might be happening, rather than getting pent up or anxious or frustrated or fed up that things aren't working, we can take that opportunity to review and to go over and to take a bit of time, to take our time with it. I think that Virgo in the 6th house for you, Aries rising, it's pretty slow, like and that might be frustrating for you too. I know that you sort of prefer to move a little quicker than that. But yeah, at this full moon, it almost feels as though that Virgo is really holding some kind of grounding here. Because Saturn is in Pisces, so there's that sort of boundary or kind of container that we're kind of working with in your 12th house of the sort of, the unconscious workings of your mind, your hidden realms. There might be some great sort of like personal development that you're committed to at this time. This full moon might be a temptation to like throw all of that in the bin and react the way that I used to react. I maybe check yourself on that and see if that's what you really want to do. The other thing that's going on is that Neptune, the planet that does provide us with our imagination, that does open the doorway to our dream world, has been in Pisces for about 12 years now, nearly, since 2012. So it's a very slow-moving planet. They will be forming a little face-off with the asteroid Athena a week after this full moon. So Mercury is definitely the planet that informs our communication and does bring information. When they're retrograde, it's really important for us to go over what's the hell's going on and get clarity. Athena is the goddess of wisdom and strategy. So the reason I'm bringing this up, and I've got 2 tarot cards that I might show you just so you can visualize. So for Neptune will be played by the King of Cups tonight, and Pallas Athena will be played by the Queen of Swords tonight. Welcome. In the mythology of how Athens was named, there was a face-off between Neptune and between Athena. They were in competition to prove to the town who would be the most appropriate deity to, to name the township after. Neptune, the god of the sea, the god of the unseen, the depths of ourselves, our psyche, slammed down their trident, and a fount of salt water, a geyser, came from the center of town. And initially people were like, oh, fantastic water, a water source, amazing. Oh, it's salt water. It's kind of, we're on an island. It's kind of useless. Athena planted one seed, and from that, an olive tree shot up and grew, and everyone rejoiced. They had a food source now. They could eat the olives. They could make olive oil. They also could use the branches as an emblem for peace. See what I'm getting at? So, Athens was called Athens because of Athena. There you go. There's a little bit of a story time. What I see here in the astrology is that Neptune in your 12th house of the hidden world, the unconscious chambers of yourself, maybe stuff that you don't talk about so much. Maybe it's, it's kind of private. It could have something to do with your psychology too. If that was something that you're kind of working on at the moment, like if you're sort of actively seeking a counselor or something like that, or you're kind of really invested in improving the health of your mental faculty, that could be part of this conversation. And so what I see here is that there is some potential of an olive branch or some wisdom that can be gleaned from the way that your daily life is structured and the rhythms and the routines that you're following in life can inform and sort of help quell maybe some of this temptation to sort of like dissociate is the easiest word for it. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's really cool, it's great to drop out, man. Sometimes it can be just simply because we can't bear it here and we're looking for some sort of relief. See, we're back to that sort of Priapus sort of talk too. So this is the advice for this week, I would say. So after the full moon on the 31st, feel it. And don't be shy as well, Aries rising, like it's, everyone will be. So keep that in mind too. If you're out and about moving around, being social, keep it in mind that folks are going to be pretty emotional. So not just you, everyone. So careful where you tread. Careful or be open to review how conversations are flowing and what is being said, and if there's been any kind of misunderstandings as well. And then the week after, on the 6th, when we do have that moment of clarity between the gods, see if there's some kind of like olive branch or some sort of solution that's coming from your repetition. This could actually be a conversation around, like a relationship with a therapist, or there's sort of strategies that you're sort of learning in talk therapy or something like that can aid some of the inner workings of your psyche. That could be what's going on too. Shit. I tell you what, there's someone here with me today, and that's really nice. I got the 8 of Cups and the 8 of Pentacles. So these are the 2 points of the zodiac that the moon and the sun are informing. So the first decan of Pisces, where the moon will be, is the 8 of Cups, and the first decan of Virgo, where the sun will be, is the Eight of Pentacles. So you can see that lovely relationship between the eights. There is a repetitious feeling here, isn't there, in the Eight of Pentacles? There's skills that are being learned and being rehearsed. There's training that's happening here, and there's kind of a commitment to the tasks at hand. There's a commitment to going the distance. There's a commitment to that repetition, perhaps that rewiring, maybe, perhaps, of some of those different neural pathways that we can get stuck in. And not just you, babe, everyone can do that. It's fine. Like, it's part of being a human being. And another part of being a human being is learning that we have kind of, there's room to heal. There's room to develop new pathways. That's what mindfulness is. I'm sure that I've said this to you 1,000 times. But this is this is the sun. The moon here is, you can see, this character here is like on a mission. They're on their way to find that missing cup, to bring it back, to find that emotional lesson or that emotional connection that was lost, and to bring it back to their collection. They're willing to go deeper, is what I really feel here with the Eight of Cups. This person's willing to go deeper. So this feels pretty, like, this feels big, Aries. It really does. Yeah. You've got my full support on this too. I'm tempted just to show you the moon card as well. So this is the card that does represent Pisces in the major secrets of the tarot. And you can see that there's that pathway again. There's that same moon. The further we go along, we do come into to meet the different sides of our being. Part of us is really wild and wants to break free and wants to use our animal instincts and follow them. The other part of us is in training and is sort of learning, learning the rules of the game, maybe. Both are inside you and both are accessible to you. It's just a matter of deciphering when and where. I would probably suggest at this full moon, seeing because it is so laboured and so intense, that the temptation to be a wild child and to unleash might be really rising within you. So I would ground myself with this king. Whoever this may be, this is someone that can sort of hold your ankles as you're sort of like paddling out. This is someone that's got their anchor or their line connecting you back to shore. So if you do need to go out there and you do need to take the journey, Aries rising, then I'm not going to stop you. I think that you know what you're doing. I reckon that it's really important to keep that line between yourself and the earth. Ground yourself so you can come back. Prepare the space, all of that kind of thing. I love tarot. Can you tell? I love tarot. I love astrology. I love doing this. Thank goodness. Come back to earth, Uma. I've had to as well. It's not just you, babe. We're all going through it. So also on that full moon, it might be good to be around other folks and you can sort of, set and setting, rules to live by. That's your reading, babe. Much love to you. I hope that I was articulate in my translation of these messages. Love you heaps. I can read your birth chart if I've not already. I'll draw you one up like this. You can head to umaruby.com and book yourself a place with me via the readings page. I'm accepting tip money at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And I'll be with you in 2 weeks and we'll talk about the new moon in Virgo. So this is going to be after the fact, after the sort of perhaps the potential olive branch. And you can use that new moon to further extend upon your new routine. That's going to keep you healthy and fit and strong of mind and of body. I love you heaps, Aries. You take good care. Bye. Hello, Leo Rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the super blue full moon in Pisces. This one is a big one, babe. So I've just had a look at your chart and I'm thinking of how I'm going to extend some of my support and some of the information that I have for you in order to best work with this one. So the reason that it's called a blue moon, first of all, is because it's the second full moon in the month. So remember at the start of the month, on the 2nd of August, we had the full moon in Aquarius, your 7th house of the other, of relationships. And we got to release what we didn't need in that field anymore and also show a bit of gratitude for those that have stuck around. Well, this is the second full moon in August, so it's happening on the 31st of August at 11:37 a.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. The reason that it's a super moon is because it is in a conjunction with the point of, it's at the point of the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. The lunar apogee is the point where it's furthest away. In astrology, we call that Lilith. The point that the moon is closest to the Earth is called Priapus, or the lunar perigee. We'll say Priapus, though, to go with the mythology. So physically, it's going to look bigger than normal. The moon's going to be quite juicy, quite potent, and we know what a moon does to us anyway. A full moon can tend to move the emotions. We know what a moon in Pisces will do, which is bring things to the surface and allow us to be a little bit of a wild child and to really kind of feel and intuit. This is all in your 8th house of the way that our energy is intertwined with other folks. It's the house of grief and the house of loss, and how we learn to say goodbye and how we learn to incorporate our resources with somebody else. So it's a big one, Leo rising. So I want to be kind of really articulate as much as I can be with Mercury Gatorade at the moment. Mercury stationed retrograde the day after we entered Virgo season. So right now the sun is blazing its slow trail through your 2nd house of your access to abundance and money and coin on your own back, your material worth, your values, your ability to take care of yourself. Mercury will be retrograde throughout this whole Virgo season, pretty much. So the planet that brings with it information, the planet that translates for us, and helps us understand, is in its retrograde motion, which means that we really do need to review and go over everything that we think we know, or we think that we've understood about the goal or the assignment. And so while this is all happening, this sort of lions crossed, bit skew-if sort of energy that's going on in your 2nd house of that, the moon is like shining a light on all of these kind of really tender moments for you. Sometimes the 8th house can talk about, inheriting money as well, depending on who you are. It probably doesn't for me, but like that kind of like interwoven connection with someone else as far as resourcefulness plays out in the 8th house. And there is a real level of kind of sincerity to it as well. Grief, that's the word, So we might be tempted, as we often might be in Pisces, to numb it in some way or to like overdo it. We might be tempted to find that kind of relief somewhere because the emotions that are revealing themselves or that are rising up are proving to be too much. If we go back to the mythology of Priapus, Priapus was the child of Bacchus / Dionysus, so the god of wine. Priapus was endowed by a great extra potential in this life. being cheeky about it. Just look up pictures of Priapus and you'll understand why. But part of their mythology, or part of their kind of character, was this unrelenting urge. Nothing was sort of satiating, and there was often kind of this feeling, this hot feeling in the base of the spine, but no payoff or no relief, no release. The character themselves, pretty self-serving. Like, yeah, I'd love to read some more about Priapus, but definitely kind of really like, you know, concerned with their own loins. And so there was a lot of dissatisfaction that happened for them in coupling. So think about that, and think about that urgency to relief or relieve yourself in some way when emotions get too much. Because in tarot, the Pisces card is the moon. You know, it's the love moon. Love what the moon can bring up for us. Really aware that the moon can have us behave like a rabid animal. The moon can also have us check that and be aware of that and try and work with the emotions in another way. So, yeah, Priapus is here in this reading to tell us about that, the difference. You know, revelry, amazing. Love to celebrate, love to, you know, unleash, love to launch. You know, some of my happiest moments are when I'm with a group of friends and we all are like, yep, okay, it's time to launch on the dance floor or wherever it is, you know, that kind of feeling of like, yes, get it out of me. There's that. There's also a search to do that, to block out whatever else is really going on, or to find that sense of relief from the anxious feeling. And that's what I'm really kind of working with Priapus in this reading, is that sort of search for relief of a feeling. And so to take all of that and to have it happen in your 8th house of such intense topics is pretty full on. And so I want to be as constructive as I can with finding some solutions for this too. I'm not saying all of this to warn you as well, Leo. Like, I'm only like, please, if you're like, no, I feel great. Like, that's like, I'm so glad that you are. Awesome. Really, really awesome. Click away. It's okay. But I think it's just that all signs are pointing to this could be, you know, a bit of a showstopper as far as the moons of this year. So I am trying to be as gentle as I can and constructive as I can too. So a week after this occurrence, this happens, there's going to be an opposition between the planet Neptune, which has been in your 8th house since 2012, I believe. So Neptune is the energy that we work with as far as our imagination and as far as like a sort of like the hidden world too. There's a lot of like dream and illusion that's attached to Neptune. So illusion's probably a good word for it in this particular reading. Neptune is going to be in exact opposition with the asteroid Athena again, who we all know and love from some of the readings before, and of course your own relationship with the goddesses. Athena is the goddess of wisdom and strategy, and I'll show you the cards. So I've got, just as placeholders, I have the King of Cups here as Neptune or Poseidon, and I have the Queen of Swords here as Athena. Tonight the roles of Athena and Poseidon will be played by the King of Cups and the Queen of Swords. So the story goes that there was a competition between Neptune and Athena, and they both were wanting to be the patron deity of the town of Athens, of the city of Athens. They were both vying to be named, their name to be used in honor of Athens. And so Neptune slammed down their trident, and a geyser of water spurted out from the town square. And initially there was rapture, but then it turned out that it was bore water or salt water deeper from in the earth. So it was kind of useless. It needed to be filtered, and they were an island. So it was kind of like, well, it's got plenty of seawater. Athena planted a seed, and from that, an incredible olive tree emerged, and the township rejoiced, and they could eat from the tree, and they could make olive oil, and they could extend the branch every now and again for some peace, which is something that we all are kind of really looking forward to, aren't we? That friggin' olive branch. So, we can see who won the battle. Athena. That's why Athens is called Athens. There you go. There's some mythology. This is the face-off that we're kind of working with. So it happens, the reason I'm bringing it up is because Neptune's in Pisces, and Athena will be in Virgo, that sort of sense of grounding, and wisdom. So it fits the mythology quite clearly. So the day that Mercury conjoins the sun, so they're going to be in the same degree, Mercury in its retrograde motion, where we're sort of trying to come up with answers about our livelihood, how we're going to, maybe there's been some misconstrued information about our sense of access to money or coin or our values as well. But Mercury is going to conjoin the sun, so there'll be a moment of clarity on the 6th of September. That's the same day that Athena and Neptune will be facing off. So there's going to be, I feel, some sort of olive branch moment. There's going to be something that was going to come to you that's going to hopefully, potentially aid your grief, aid this wave of intense emotion in the 8th house, and it's going to have something to do with your resources, your stuff. What do you have? What are you going to do with that stuff? Yeah, it's full-on astrology, Leo. If you're still here with me, let's get you some tarot on the table, because I reckon there'll be some more info that we can work with. Yeah, power. If you've got planets in Pisces too, it might be worth just checking to see what's going on in your 8th house as well, because this huge full moon, this Priapus moon, might be highlighting some of your personal planets as well. So depending on what they are, that might add an extra texture to what we're about to go through. I also don't wish to sort of make you frightened of anything. I love the moon. I really do. It really is and has been for all of my life a guiding light. And it's been something that has provided me with some context in regard to my own tides, my own ebb and flow internally. So yeah, Pisces, the Pisces playing as its best self is so imaginative and so connected, psychically and otherwise. So it might be an evening where you find yourself kind of thinking about, in terms of the 8th house and in terms of, having to say goodbye, perhaps there's something that you've had to say goodbye to, and that you're processing, you're in process of integrating that grief, into your life from moving forward. And so it might be kind of you might be able to hold audience with some of those feelings, or some of that might be how you're going to work with this full moon. You might sit with it, and it might come up again, Mercury is retrograde. I apologize, my communication is a bit static. Okay, I got the Tower at the end of this one, Leo. So the Tower looks a bit spooky. It looks like that there's some sort of intervention, there's some sort of disaster. That's what the tower kind of is. That's the picture of it. You know, it's like a sort of lightning bolt destroying a tower that looked solid. The essence of this card, though, is that the foundations of that tower weren't particularly strong in the first place. So I wonder if, as we're sort of talking about this, if you're still here with me, like, is there things that are sort of unlocking for you? Is there something that we can maybe shift a little bit further, if we can get more intense and more sincere with the energy of a Pisces full moon, and move beyond that state of relief? You know, sometimes with Pisces we can drink too much, or we can, you know, try and numb out the feeling. Feels, yeah, it's kind of, because I got the Eight of Swords in reverse and the Eight of Cups in reverse too. So it's like, this could be a message that there's no moving around this one, Leo rising. There's no trying to wiggle out of it or trying to dissociate and avoid it. There's maybe some stuff that you've kept yourself, you've tried to protect yourself. You're in the ivory tower, as it were, maybe one step removed from something, or like there's a barrier between you and something else. And perhaps at this moon, that might crumble. And so the relief will come after the sort of shock and the vulnerability too. If you're feeling extra specially emotional at this time, or if you feel, you know, that sort of tremor, sometimes it can tickle your throat sometimes, those kinds of feelings where you're like, I'm fine, I'm holding it together, oh, I'm really not, oh, I'm really not, I need to find a safe space. That might sort of be the week for you. If that's the case, then absolutely, like, you know, setting, like, feather your nest and make sure that you're somewhere really comfortable and safe, that you can be exactly who you are and feel how you need to feel. I would be reluctant to think that this weekend of the full moon might be a good time to be working from our front-facing, our public-facing self. I think it might be too much. It might not work. So, yeah, I hope that you don't have big plans this weekend to, like, you know, be the hostess with the mostess. I'm just, sorry. Like, it does feel like a breakthrough. Like, it does feel like we can't move on any further without really addressing some of this grief, babe. So, yeah, as again, like, make sure that you have what you need. If what you need is solitude and you feel strong enough to go this alone, then you can do that. If you've got, like, one friend that you can, like, hang out with for the night, then I reckon do that too. Like, someone that knows what you're going through, that knows what you're about to break free of. It actually feels really, like, important, Leo rising. So, like, you've got things to look forward to. You've got, like, so much to look forward to. This moon, we're going to move away from that just searching for relief, you know, Priapus, like, look up the picture of Priapus and have a bit of a chuckle, because that's not you anymore. You know, it's sort of like on the mountaintop waiting, you know, looking for relief in all the wrong places. This is a pivotal moment for you, Leo rising, a changing, or morphing into something else. So allow that tower to happen. Allow what needs to crumble to crumble, and be extra specially super kind with yourself and your emotions, your Pisces-ness. Again, check your chart to see if you've got any planets in Pisces, and then figure out how Pisces works and plays out for you in your 8th house. the 8th can be really constructive, and there's a lot of great healing that can occur there. And probably in time, there's like the mantle of the healer can be worn in the 8th house too. So just have a think about that as well. But you don't need to edit yourself anymore. This is taking a turn here, there, and I hope this is making sense, Leo. I'm gonna chill there. I think I am conscious of my mixed messages with Mercury and my own stuff going on. So I love you heaps. If you wanted your birth chart read by me, I'll draw it for you like that. And you can organize a thing on my website, umaruby.com. I accept tips over at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby, and I'll be with you in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about the Virgo new moon. So we're going to refocus on your 2nd house of your values, your coin, your resources, what you're made of, and Mercury will have station direct to the day after. So it's kind of like, right, okay, I'm going to use Virgo season this year to review. I don't have to I don't need any results this year. I'm going to use it to review. And then moving forward, what I learnt from this Virgo season, I can bring into my 2nd house moving forward after that tower's struck. I love you very much, Leo rising. You take care, okay? Bye. Hello, Sagittarius rising. Welcome to your horoscope for the super blue full moon in Pisces, happening on the 31st of August at 11:37 a.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So it will be like around lunchtime, but obviously the moon that night will be just as bright and just as bountiful. So you'll get to see it and feel it. Probably the moon the night before as well, actually on the 30th of August, if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. There's multiple explanations that I need to give you to get some of the nuts and bolts out of the way, and I'm being very mindful with my communication because Mercury is Gatorade right now. It will be for all of Virgo season, and so there is going to be some crossed wires, some miscommunication, and a lot of opportunity to be really articulate and go over some of the information that we're attempting to put forward. So that's that. First of all of Virgo season is going to really need us to be in revision mode and to be really kind of present and to not maybe get upset or frustrated with other people, but to really come to understand what we're trying to tell them and what we're receiving as well. If you're not understanding something, it's okay. You can ask and say, can you clarify that for me? Yes, so that's all going on. Mercury and Virgo. So Virgo is your 10th house of your career and your public self. But we're not talking about that so much with this moon. We're actually going somewhere really deep and private. Pisces rules your 4th house, Sagittarius rising. So this is your home, your roots, your ancestry, your privacy. This is the bottom part of the chart where we find our most intimate connecting points, where we do develop our relationship with our roots, with our ancestors. For some of us, that can be really triggering work to do. And I think that maybe when there's a full moon in this house, it might be extra emotional in regard to some of those topics. So let's be strategic about it, and let's be as constructive as we can when working with this kind of feeling. So it's called a supermoon because there's a point in the moon's orbit around the Earth where it's closest to the Earth and where it's furthest away. And so when it's closest, it looks bigger. And when it's furthest away, it looks smaller. In astrology, these points are called the lunar, or actually in astronomy too, the lunar perigee and the lunar apogee for close and far away. In astrology, we can think of the mythology of Priapus and of Lilith. So something biblical, something from the ancient Greek. The mythology around Priapus, who was the child, I think I'm saying that right, Priapus? I like to say Priapus, maybe Priapussy might actually, you know what? Forget it. Sorry, I hate to interrupt this transmission, but Priapussy is a really good drag name. If anyone wants to take it, you're welcome to it. back to the show. So Priapus, the mythology around that character, they were the child of Bacchus/Dionysius, and they were born with endowments of wondrous size. Look up pictures of Priapus and you'll understand what I'm getting at. They lived on a mountaintop, and some of the worship around Priapus was for things like fertility and things like the harvest and things like sort of mirth and celebration. So sort of like the culmination of a period of hard work is what Priapus would often be thanked for. In some of the stories, in most of the stories actually, part of the curse of Priapus was that they were never satisfied, and that probably some of their courtship tactics are really inappropriate, which probably led to their dissatisfaction. They were really centric on themselves, is what I'm getting at. And so when I think of Priapus in terms of like the moon, I think of feelings of like an urgency for like relief. You know, sometimes how you get just so anxious or so, you can't even quite put a finger on the frustration. And that's maybe the root of it too. It's this growing feeling of frustration. It's just like, something's got to give and I don't know what. And I'm actually getting a bit sort of frustrated in my mind gymnastics because I actually don't know what would relieve me. I don't know what I'm looking for or what I'm holding out for. This is how we can sort of bring in that sort of Priapus vibe into the size of the moon. It might have folks getting a bit sort of agitated and sort of out there. I reckon this is a moon in your 4th house, Sagittarius rising. So if you can, it might be really great to stay home at this one as well. Some people trip out unconsciously at a full moon. It's not your responsibility, but just to be, sort of out and about on the street, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not going to do it. Especially for you, because this is spotlighting your ancestry. And so we've got almost bigger fish to fry here. And maybe by maybe describing this to you, Sagittarius rising, you can maybe recognize that this is where we're going. This is the kind of work this is what we're working with. Sometimes we can be grateful with a full moon in the 4th. Sometimes we can look around and marvel at the delicate lacework of our bloodlines and the people that we hold dear, and we can show such gratitude for that. At other times, when there's this dull relief that we're looking for, that may have us, because it's Pisces too, it may have us sort of overindulge in trying to mask the emotions with something, substances or habits of any kind really. But there's something about sort of masking the depths that we might plummet to, trying to save ourselves. Or agitation is sometimes a feeling though as well, isn't it? It's sometimes that we can get angry under there somewhere, and then that can sort of spill out, in our reality. We're going to examine things like your family, bloodlines, and who came before you and how they took care of you. If in fact there's some gratitude there, fantastic that you can, say thank you to them. There might be some real sorrow there too. There might be some growing urgency, and you might recognize sometimes in your unconscious habits how this backstory has informed the way that you sometimes operate at home too. Pisces is really intuitive and really like full of empathy. So that might sort of give an extra texture to what you wish for at home. I imagine that, to be overly articulate with emotions would be really important to you, Sagittarius rising, when you're at home, when you're considering like how you're building your own safe space, your own nest. But with this supermoon, this exaggeration on the 4th house, there might be some stuff that comes up about disappointment or about, frustration, limitation, those sorts of things. So we're going to be really kind of mindful. We're going to have to be. It's just advice, and do with it what you will. But I think that it'll be really important to be aware of this stuff. Also, if we can kind of feel that kind of like maybe some of the wires crossed in our public self, and remember that Mercury does bring with it the ability to communicate, the ability to put the message across. So maybe if you consider your public life, there might be some like snafus that are going on there that might need a bit of a laugh and sort of, a realization that everything can be ironed out and resolved and sorted through, sifted through at a Mercury retrograde time. But if there's like other emotions that are coming up, like, if it is anger, if it is, sort of frustration, if you're feeling undervalued in the workplace or in your public world, there could be a link to some stuff that is being highlighted at this time about the root system, about the ancestral lines, perhaps some of the trauma that exists there. We can carry that. I'm really coming to learn that more and more and more and more and more as I travel along in my one little life, my little vantage point, the ancestral trauma that we can carry in our bodies on behalf of our culture too, sometimes is an important thing to think about. As a queer identifying person, it's a continuum of gratitude for where I am now and my ability to be the person that I am. Also, to bear witness to the legacy of trauma and to honor that and to try and not let that impede my growth. To really remember that my roots, as entangled with the web of mycelium, of my ancestors underneath the soil, that I have my own journey to the sun. We're resilient too, Sagittarius rising. We really are. And that any kind of, I've got Ellen Burstyn in my head right now, and I'm paraphrasing. There's a great interview with her at the Actors Studio, and she talks about the will of control of structure or money or oppression. And she was in the parking lot and she was looking at this little chute that had just found its way clear of a big slab of cement paving in the the parking lot of one of the studios she was working at. And this little tiny green chute had, with time and patience and will, actually moved that stone out of position to find the light, to find its own growth. That was a huge paraphrase, but relate that to your own growth, Sagittarius rising. They'll try, they always do. That's kind of, I guess, maybe it's part of our era to continue to fight against oppression, and that where there's a will, there's a way, and just one little shoot of green can move an entire cement block. That's physical, a physical metaphor for your ability to. I hope that was helpful. Let's get you some tarot and then I'll wrap it up. Hi. How many? 3? We'll do 3. Got the moon, that's lovely. And I got judgment, and I got the 6 of Pentacles. So the story here is that sometimes in life we can feel ashamed to ask for what we need for. And sometimes in life we can feel like responsible or guilty for the provisions that we've been able to provide for either ourselves or for our loved ones, those that we care for and are carers for. And at moments when there is a spotlight on the 4th house, Sagittarius rising, and the ancestral lines, the ancestral roots, there might be some emotions that come around lack, and there might be some feelings of like sorrow for how hard your ancestors had to do it, or indeed how hard you've had to do it, and as a result of the, you know, your birthright, the lines of ancestry that you follow. And so what Tarot's telling you now is that what we can't forget is that you've chosen a path that's like maybe less walked than other folks, and you've chosen a particular route that has taken you to places that a lot of people haven't seen as well, and that there's something really magical about those kinds of choices. And perhaps as we get older, things start to seep in about sort of feeling feeling kind of this emotion of exhaustion sometimes. We must remember that we're living in a system, a social system that does treat people, human beings, like a commodity, cogs in a bigger machine for some very select few people to, you know, have the geyser of wealth, and have, you know, the land of milk and honey. You chose a different way, and you kind of rejected those points of interest to live the life that you have now. And so the 6 of Pentacles is here to remind us all that when we have enough, we pay it forward and we spread it around, because there's no sense in hanging on to all of it and storing it away and putting it under the bed and being greedy. When we've got enough, we pay it forward, we move it around, we put it to good use. And when we are in need, when we don't have enough, when we find ourselves at a point in our life when we could use a little helping hand, we needn't feel a skerrick of guilt for asking for it. That we, as a community of human beings, when we're onto it, we're here to take care of one another. And this unusual path that you've forged for yourself thus far in your life, Sagittarius rising, is maybe could be light on the coin, maybe not. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, oh, you're on the other side of the 6 of Pentacles and you've got enough to start moving around. I would like to talk about the alternative to that too. If you're at a point where you've lived a life of such expression and you've sort of chosen a different path, the wealth of your experience can't be met with money. It can't be quantified in that system. What you know and what you've experienced in terms of love and in terms of keeping your eyes open, of creativity, of expressing yourself, of moving around, you know, chasing the dream, babe. Sagittarius rising to a T, consistently able to further expand that mind. Incredible. That can't be bought. So if sometimes there's a full moon in the 4th house, there could be feelings of like, you know, I've got Anoni in my head right now. I hope there's someone to take care of me when I go. You know that song? Maybe it's worth a listen to at this full moon, and to remember that there is, that there will be, that there is already. someone to take care of you when it's time to go. It's not time to go yet. You've got heaps more to get through, Sagittarius rising. But maybe that little lament. We're kind of moving gently forwards from the nuclear family too. That's a structure, just thinking fourth house, that's a structure that was really, proved effective for growth at a certain era of the 20th century. It's really untenable right now to continue with that level of growth. And also culturally, consciously, families are made up of all sorts of different relationships and different people. And some folks have decided not to have children, or some folks have had children and they've moved out and they're on their own now. Some folks don't have any relations on the bloodline coming up from underneath them. But this is the point in our evolution that we do get to look back to go forward. So we do think about how different communities operated in the olden days, before the industrial age. And we do think about the way that we can kind of see them or hope to have them operate and move around in the future too. Sometimes it's really good to go back to go forward. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to put an elder to rest as well. So don't worry if that's something that's just on your mind of sort of like, well, what, who's gonna, when my faculty fails me, who's going to take care of me? There'll be stacks of people, because you've lived this beautiful life of self-expression and of journeying. You've touched a lot of people on your journey so far. And if you're at the very beginning of it too, then this is maybe an encouragement for you to put some of that kind of preemptive worry down. Young people can worry about that stuff just as much as people in their middle age or later years. They can sort of stop themselves from going out on the limb because of the fear of being left alone. Loneliness is like crushing, or the fear, loneliness can be crushing, but the fear of loneliness is even worse. That was my belly. That was reminding me that the sand's finished and I've said enough. So that was your reading, Sagittarius rising. I love you lots. I can read your birth chart at umaruby.com. They look like this. I accept tip money over at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. And I'll be with you in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about the new moon in Virgo, which will be a great point to switch it up, opposite ends of the chart, and to make some wishes about your public life, about your career and what you hope to be remembered for. So we get to sort of get back in the studio, as it were, and start making some things happen. Mercury will have stationed direct the day after that new moon too. So let's review for now. Let's use this month to review and to be meticulous with our understanding, and then we can move forward and strategize from there. Much love to you, Sagittarius rising. Full Pisces big moon kisses. I'm with you. I love you. Very proud of you. Bye.